Hey guys, sorry, our hotspot was disconnected, so the last video ended prematurely. We only had 3 more slides left, so that fucking sucks, but we're gonna get back to talking about SOMI versus ploidy, okay? So remember from the very end of the last video, we were talking about how ploidy is referring to sets of chromosomes, while SOMI, trisomy, is referring to individual copies of very specific chromosomes. So if you have trisomy 21, for instance, you have an extra copy, a single extra copy going from 2 copies to 3 copies of chromosome 21. If you have a situation, let's say that you have 1 fewer copy of chromosome 21 instead of 1 extra copy. That's going to be monosomy 21. All right, now it's important that for SOMI that we're referring to specific chromosomes, okay? So if I say you have trisomy 17, that's an extra copy of chromosome 17. If I say you have monosomy 1, it means you have 1 fewer copy of chromosome 1. So remember, in a diploid organism, you're going to have 2 copies of every single chromosome. If you have monosomy, that is -1. If you have trisomy, that is +1, okay? All right. We are gonna go back and sharing that PowerPoint. Like I said, we were almost done. We only have a few slides left. So trisomy causes, so for instance, trisomy 21 causes genetic disorders like Down syndrome. That is the most common trisomy because you're going to have a viable fetus, and not only a viable fetus, but people born with trisomy 21, you know, they might have learning disabilities and things like that, but mostly they can lead, I mean, very normal lives, okay? Other trisomies can occur in other chromosomes, but some chromosomes are like, have way more important stuff on them. So if you have a trisomy or a monosomy in another chromosome, it might cause the embryo to fail to continue developing, okay? So not every trisomy will lead to a viable offspring. Extra or missing sex chromosomes can cause sex disorders. So this is a diagram that is in chapter 9, and I also, like, this has the incidences of each one of them too. That's awesome. So go over that. But here I've spelled it out for us too. So triplo X, including just some additional information about what happens with each of these sex disorders. So in triplo X, it is only in biological females, okay? Because triplo X, instead of having 2 X chromosomes, like a normal biological female, you have an extra X chromosome. So triplo X would be XXX sex chromosomes, okay? So that these females would have a tall stature, but a small head. A lot of these sex disorders, like you'll see in a second, have delayed learning and learning disabilities. Klinefelter disorder, this is only in males where you, just like triplo X, you have an additional X chromosome, but this is in males because the sex chromosomes are XXY, okay? So instead of XY, you've got XXY. Now in Klinefelter disorder, this is associated with small testes, infertility, so testes are not producing sperm, okay? Then developmental delays, but symptoms are gonna vary with each individual. Then you've got Jacob's syndrome, where you have an extra Y chromosome. So instead of XY, you have XYY. Leads to developmental delays and behavioral problems. And then Turner syndrome. In Turner syndrome, you have 1 less, oh God, there's a wasp. In Turner syndrome, you have 1 less X chromosome. So instead of XX, you are what biologists refer to as X naught, okay? X null, X O. This is just a placeholder saying that there's supposed to be another X chromosome or another sex chromosome here, but there's not, okay? So individuals with Turner syndrome, they only have a single X chromosome. Now, the thing about it is that they are still able to live. So they have the exact same number of X chromosomes that males do, but it's associated with lots of physical and hormonal abnormalities. So they have short stature, swelling, broad chest, low hairlines, low set ears, webbed necks. So like, think about when you do this and how you have all these tendons here that are connected to your shoulders and your clavicle and everything. It's like they're really tight, which is creating this look of like a webbed neck, okay? Girls with Turner syndrome typically experience gonadal dysfunction, which is when you don't have functioning ovaries. And not having functioning ovaries, that's unfortunately going to affect some of their hormone imbalances, results in amenorrhea. And amenorrhea is the absence of a menstrual cycle. If you do not have a menstrual cycle, and if you have this gonadal dysfunction, you have sterility, okay? So the thing about Turner syndrome, I have a friend whose daughter has Turner syndrome, and it's really sad because typically, I mean, unless you get this really expensive genetic screening when you're pregnant, you don't know about some of these genetic disorders and sex disorders before they're born. So her daughter didn't find out until all of her friends were like all of a sudden, you know, getting their menstrual cycles, and she wasn't, and she was smaller and, you know, had some of these physical abnormalities that were starting to become pretty obvious, and takes her daughter to the doctor and they can test for these things, obviously, comes back and finds out that she's not going to have her period like all of her little friends, but then also that she's not going to be able to have babies. And so, lots of these sex disorders, aside from, you know, some of the learning delays and physical abnormalities, they're really sad and kind of, you know, they're life altering basically. All right, guys, sorry again for that interruption, but we are done with chapters 11, 8, and 9. So we're done. Congratulations. And I will see you next week when we're talking about genetics, when we're talking about inheritance. So you have a great day. Bye.